Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, this has got really serious all of a sudden, hasn't it? This has got really serious all of a sudden. I mentioned a couple of videos ago that there is an option to force a special meeting if 5% of voting members call for one. In the context I was talking about, it was to get them to reveal their decisions for overriding the WRC's recommendation. That has now been released. We have that now. I did it, what was that, 2 videos ago? I don't know. I'm going to lose track at this point. It's getting quite late and I want to go to bed. But a thing happened, everyone. A thing has happened, and it's rather a significant thing, okay? This post was made by Lucas Garin. Was it really 5 hours ago? Okay, sure. And it's titled Magna Carta, and it says, Dear WCA staff, it is with a heavy heart that I announce a petition that calls for a vote to remove or keep each of the 5 current WCA board members under the power granted to voting members by sections 2.11 and 3.8 of the WCA bylaws. Remember the bylaws? We looked at those, didn't we? I would like to emphasize that this is not because we want to get rid of the board, but because we believe this is an appropriate step to get the board to agree to accountability, improvements, and rebuild trust. Okay. I like that. I like that, Lucas. This is not a coup. This is the voting members exercising their right in calling a meeting for the appropriate step to get the board to agree to accountability, improvements, and to rebuild trust. Very important, big stuff. The petition is publicly visible to the world here. We'll have a look at it in a second. We are going to go through it. You know we are. If you are a WCA staff member who shares concerns about the board, you are welcome to add your signature and or examples of concerning behaviour by the board. Thank you, Lucas Garin, WRC founder and senior member, founder of the WRC. Well, gosh. Okay, so we're going to go through this, okay? This is big and it's worth understanding and talking about. So let's start with a summary. That seems like a good place to start. The WCA board has made it clear that they are willing to make decisions contrary to the expertise and viewpoints of WCA staff as well as WCA community, to the point that a large number of people have completely lost trust in the board. We wish to restore trust to the WCA. Fair. The board has decided to disregard feedback and override checks and balances, and this leaves only one accountability mechanism: voting whether to keep or remove board members. Yeah, unfortunately, it does seem that way. This is not because we want to get rid of the board, reiterating this, but because we believe that this is an appropriate step to get the board to agree to accountability improvements and rebuild trust. We offer a Magna Carta of immediate actions that board members can take to convey that they are willing to be held more accountable, and suggest that voting members vote to keep any members who take these actions. Wow. Okay. So they're saying, do these things, and then we're going to vote on whether to keep you or not. Goodness. I wonder, I feel like someone very, very experienced has helped in writing this, you know? We include examples of concerning behaviour to help explain the need for this petition and a few links to related documents. Okay. Date of publication, October the 1st, 2024. Petition, we, the undersigned, under the power granted to voting members by sections 2.11 and 3.8 of the WCA bylaws, submit this petition calling for a special meeting of 5 votes to be performed in the following order of effect. And then it names the board members and says that they're going to vote to remove or keep them all. Per section 3.8, it is not necessary for us to specify a cause for removal, so we do not specify one here. However, we believe it is clear from past and recent events that invoking this accountability mechanism is regrettably necessary, and include examples as a living information addendum below. Gosh. We understand that a meeting has not been called under these circumstances before. It's the first one of its kind, gosh. And that an arbiter may be needed to interpret and exercise the process. That's sensible. We call on the leader of the WIC, the Integrity Committee, Shane Longbane. I don't know if that's how you say Shane's name. Longbane? Longbane? Longbane. Shane Longbane rhymes, so I'm going to go with that as the appropriate arbiter for this. We ask Shane to either call the special meeting or work with other non-board WCA staff to schedule it in the range of October 15th to the 31st. Edit. The AGM has been announced for October the 19th. Ooh, it may or may not be appropriate to use this meeting to conduct the votes at the discretion of the arbiter. Well, there's a lot of statutory standard business that needs to get done at an AGM, so probably not appropriate. Would be my first thought, but I could be wrong. It's happened before. Arrange to use the Helios platform, okay, to perform these votes anonymously, if at all possible. Oh, well, that makes sense. Ideally with a window of several days for voting members to submit their votes. If the WIC deems this to be incompatible with the special meeting process, we ask for the WIC to run and or oversee as much of the voting process as possible, and for the vote to be anonymous through another mechanism if possible. Disregard any attempt by the WCA board to postpone or interfere with the votes, and empower other WCA staff to disregard any such attempt. Okay. Shane has confirmed his willingness to be an arbiter in this regard. Good on you, Shane. Thanks for that. We note that there is no process to prevent a special meeting once it has been called by 5% of voting member signatories. However, reiterating here, it is not our fundamental goal to remove the board, but rather to improve the WCA. And here it talks about the Magna Carta. We take inspiration from a document that's famous for demonstrating the concessions from those who have overreached their power can form the basis for a better future. Oh, concessions from those who have overreached their power can form the basis for a better future. Magna Carta was issued in June 2015. 1215, it was the first document to put into writing the principle that the king and his government was not above the law. Sure. We also reiterate a guiding principle from an internal protest submitted by WCA staff in 2023. Dissent is the highest form of patriotism. We agree, not because we want to make a scene, but because we love this organization and want the best for it and its members. Amen, brother. We have submitted this petition because the board has demonstrated a level of disregard for dissent that we think is harmful to the well-being of the WCA and the WCA community. To that end, the signatories would like to suggest that each board member performs the following actions in full if they wish to demonstrate that they support checks and balances that can bring back trust. So these are the demands. These are the demands that are being put forward. In this Magna Carta to the board. Okay, so here we go. Publicly post an individual statement that they support rescinding the board's overrule of the WRC regarding the recent incident involving frame-by-frame analysis, and immediately put this into effect as soon as a majority of other board members agree. Damn, so they're going straight for the jugular, straight for the frame count decision. Publicly post an individual statement. That seems like a lot. That seems a little bit... That seems like a lot, is what I'm feeling from that. I don't know how to explain that better than that feels like a lot. We would like to emphasize that this is not a reflection of Yiheng's skill or character, but that the balance of power within the WCA and the integrity of WCA results is more important in this case. Fair? Publicly post an individual statement explaining their perspective on the lack of trust in the board and how they intend to radically improve trust and psychological safety within the WCA if they remain on the board. Again, the public post thing feels like a lot. Could that not be to staff? I don't know. It's not going to change now. But that's just a feeling I'm having. Resign from any team or committee leader position. Now, that I do feel strongly about. I think I ranted on this in the last video, the difference between operations and governance. I feel like everyone on the board is involved in some other team somewhere, and that is a massive issue from an outsider looking at this organization at a top-down level, looking at this organization. The board members are all in operations, like deep in operations. Red flag, alarm. Like that's. I'm not saying that it's corrupt or anything like that. It's just like that's not how that's supposed to work. is my understanding of how an operation like that. And I know that the WCA has evolved and changed over time, and maybe there's a good reason for that. Maybe it's just that's the way it's worked out. But as a general rule, if you're working in an organization and someone says, oh, we do that because that's the way we do that, that's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. So if that was the case, then I'd be like, sus. Anyway, resign from any team or committee leader position. I cannot not support that. That sounds like complete common sense and absolutely is what should be happening. State their support and immediately begin a timely process to restore a mechanism in the WCA motions for WCA staff to provide a check against an inappropriate team leader appointment, such as restoring the voting requirement or establishing a period during which an appropriate set of WCA staff can call for a vote if they wish. State their support and immediately begin a timely process to restore a mechanism in the WCA motions. So is this saying that board members can just appoint themselves? I don't fully understand that one, but if board members can just appoint themselves, that is a little bit of a how you going? You know, that is a bit of a how you going. State their support and immediately begin a timely process to revise the bylaws with the following changes. Okay, we're going straight for the bylaws. Fair. They're not hugely robust from having a quick flick through them the other day. Require the board to issue a public statement and explanation anytime the board overrules anything specified in the motions, including but not limited to the rights and duties of teams and committees. Well, basically, having that in place would have avoided this whole thing. Would it have avoided this whole thing? No, it would have still been a controversial decision, but people wouldn't have speculated as to why it had happened. You know, there wouldn't have been those awful, ridiculous rumors about like Yihang's mum paying off the board and stuff. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing coming up with stuff like that? Restore a more clearly defined mechanism for holding the board accountable through voting. Specify that a board member removal vote can take place directly without a special meeting with a petition from 5% of voting members. Yeah, fair. Special meeting's a bit of a faff, especially with a global board and a global staff team. Specify that an appropriate internal team that is independent of the board, currently the WIC, will conduct the vote. Sure. Specify that the vote must be concluded within a month of the petition. Sure. Specify that voting members may either call for multiple majority votes concerning one board member each or a single majority vote concerning all board members. What just happened? Specify that voting members may either call for multiple majority votes concerning one board member each or a single majority vote concerning all board members. So a vote for individuals or a vote for the entire board. Gotcha. Specify that the WIC will immediately start an election to replace any removed board members. Okay, sure. And allow 5% of voting members to call for a supermajority, 2 to 3 vote to reject any board decision to overrule. Oh, okay, that seems like a big ask, doesn't it? Allow for 5% of voting members to call for a supermajority, 2/3 vote to reject any board decision to overrule anything specified in the motions. They're asking the board to basically give up a lot of their current powers. Not all of which are unrealistic requests. Although we would like to see the... Oh, crap. I'm on the wrong screen. Sorry, everyone. Although we would also like to see the board invest in longer... So this is what we've just looked at, is this stuff here. Sorry, I didn't put the screen back. Sorry. Although we would also like to see the board invest in longer-term reform, we believe that these immediate actions will provide critical checks and balances for a volunteer organisation the size of the WCA. In the absence of other mechanisms like a union or direct participation, they also allow the board to keep their full current scope and power, along with a precedent that a sufficiently overreaching decision by the board can be checked by voting members. Yeah, sure. Fair. Makes sense. We suggest that board members who take these actions clearly and sincerely within 1 week of this petition and then continue to put them into effect over time have demonstrated sufficient reason to voting members that they should not be removed when the time for the vote comes. It's an ultimatum, isn't it? Do this or we'll vote you out. So, but I guess that's the nature of what this is. So 13 signatories, 5% of the 257 voting members, are required for this petition to take effect. But WCA voting members may sign their support even after there are 13 signatories. Oh yeah, note that a signature only conveys that a voting member wishes to call for a vote per this petition in order to hold the board accountable, not that the voting member intends to vote in a specific way. So there are currently 21 signatures at the time of looking at this. They're all publicly available, so I don't have to worry about revealing them or whatever. You can go and look at them. There's unofficial signatories as well, other external and former WCA staff. Staff who are not voting members but wish to support this petition may sign below. Sure. So here we go. This is the addendum that I wanted to take a look at. And this might take a while, okay, because it's quite chunky. This is a living addendum that may be revised over time. Okay, so I'm currently reading this at 11:15 p.m. New Zealand time on the 2nd of October, okay? Okay? That's when this is accurate. This is a living addendum that may be revised over time. It should not be considered part of the official petition and is not explicitly endorsed by the signatories. Okay, interesting. Note that this list is not exhaustive and some of the examples may be of subjective severity. Maybe I shouldn't go through these then. I think if you want, you can go through these yourself. They are there. They are available. I'll go through and read them myself. But maybe just because they're saying that it is not what people are signing up for, this is more informative and it's also subjective to an extent. But anyway, let's just review what's happened. Okay. So, oh God, how do I summarize it? So, an announcement was made by the WRC to say that we are going to start using frame-by-frame analysis now, because sliding's not cool. But Yiheng 0.78 WR average is going to stand. The community said, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Then we heard rumours that the board had overturned the WRC's decision. Then there was a leaked email from Carter, leader of the WRC, that suggested, well, what did it suggest? It suggested that this was a gross overuse of power by the board and that they were rejecting a unanimous vote. Doesn't look like it was technically a unanimous vote now, but anyway, they were rejecting the suggestion from the WRC. The board, listen, it takes time for boards to do anything and say anything, but the board then did come out with, well, they emailed everyone, okay? The email was leaked. I did get it yesterday, but I thought, chill. And it is basically the same thing. All right, there's some changes to language and grammar a little bit in the start, but it's the same thing. The board had released their statement and they're pushing it back on the WRC going, no. We've been putting this position because the WRC did not change a policy that needed to be changed. And that's put us in this position. But then in that they've kind of demonstrated that they have followed the letter of their policy, but they haven't really followed. They've potentially, by following the letter of the policy, have they lost sight of the spirit or the mission of the WCA? Potentially, I don't know. I'm flapping my gums now. Then what's happened? Like hours later, hours after that, mere hours, like a couple of hours after that, from what I can tell, the Magna Carta statement was posted by Lucas Garin, saying that 5% of voting members have petitioned to hold a special meeting to hold the board to account, to ask them to do a whole bunch of stuff, to prove that they are open to real checks and balances and improved checks and balances in how they conduct themselves and how they operate. And what am I left feeling? What am I left feeling personally at the end of this? You can all tell me how you're feeling at the end of this down in the comments. How am I feeling at the end of this? Well, just as a regular punter member of the WC, as someone who really cares for speedcubing in my own way, as someone who, I obviously have an interest in it because I sell speedcubes, all right? Let's not be silly. There you go. It's my conflict of interest. I have a huge conflict of interest. As long as it's declared, it's fine. I sell speedcubes. I want speedcubing to succeed so I can sell more speedcubes. Doi. What do I feel? I feel like this is a really grim situation that is nobody's fault in particular. I don't have any malice or hard feelings towards anyone personally. The WCA board and the WRC have ended up in a very difficult position because a process or policy or whatever wasn't our guideline. I can't remember what they've called it, a policy. I thought it was a guideline, whatever. They have been able to use an administrative mistake to justify an illegal, demonstrably illegal world record, as well as multiple instances of very high level 2x2 results being legitimized and entered into the database. So we've got a database that represents a number of results which are which break our regulations, and because of a stupid technicality, those are not able to be addressed. And because of from what I can tell, just really confused arguments about precedent, those are being upheld. I think that's the end of my cool story, everyone. I'm just gonna unleash these videos and then I'm gonna go to bed. All right, pretty much. Listen, I'll just reiterate. This is really tough. Real people are involved with real feelings, real hard-working volunteers, okay? Do I think the board have acted maliciously? Absolutely not in this case. No, absolutely not. Do I think they've made the right decision? No. Do I understand why they've made the decision they made? Yes. Do I understand why the community's angry? Yes. I don't want to be fence city. I don't want to be accused of being a fence sitter or whatever. I would, if there's evidence on video of an attempt being illegal, then that attempt needs to be removed. It's not rocket science, and I'm certainly not a rocket scientist. But if there is a result with video evidence that shows that it is illegitimate, it shouldn't be there. But then people won't film their solves. I don't know. Maybe you have to have video evidence for your solve to be considered for the database. How about that? How about that, Timmy? Anyway, I don't know. But I am going to press stop recording now, and I'm going to go. Have fun, solve cubes, and be nice to people, alright? Goodbye.